And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger and roll, planet.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside FD off. Bring in FD off. Off. It's orange!
R45! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage. Put that in the big bag, Tingle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
If the methane would be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You good? We don't need any more of these.
Hello everybody and welcome to another Falcon 9 launching, and to the surprise of probably a lot of people, this is not a Starlink. This is a pair of satellites for the Europe's medium of orbit Galileo constellation. To be precise, actually, it's FM26 and FM32. My name is Adrian Bile, I'm your host for today's Falcon 9 mission. And I'm excited to talk about this mission for the next 58 minutes. And we actually have some very interesting parts about this mission that we can talk about, including weather, including some special things about the booster recovery. And I'm looking forward to dive into all of that together with my brilliant co-commentator, Trevor Zeshnik. Trevor, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I don't know if brilliant is the right adjective to use, but I'll take it.
Yeah, just take it. For this one, it's I will assign that to you. And also behind the scenes, we have Carson running the show, making sure that we are well prepared on the visuals and audios. We also have a field team consisting of Max, D, and Julia, which will probably join us later, but they are still in a bus. So that's the case with that. And with that, Trevor, do you mind giving us an overview? What is today's mission? What are we launching?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, for once it's not Starlink, and for once it's not at night, which is pretty exciting. So this is two Galileo satellites that are being launched for the European Space Agency. Galileo is the European equivalent slash competition to America's GPS and Russia's GLONASS system. So it's a global positioning system where they have, I believe it's in the high 30 number of satellites in a medium Earth orbit. That constantly ping any device with a GPS chip in it so that you can get both accurate time and position throughout the Earth's surface. So a very important constellation that Europe has been developing for about the last, I think, a little over a decade. Yeah, today's mission will be launching two of those, trying to just bring up, I believe these will be replacing a few satellites because the constellation has like 30 some odd active satellites and a handful of spares. So they'd like to have a few extra satellites on orbit. But it will be launching, of course, from Space Launch Complex 40 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. The payload mass is about 1,603 kilograms, which is actually, while it's like way less than that of a Starlink mission, it's a lot for these medium Earth orbit missions, since this is going into a much, much higher energy orbit than previous, than, for example, Starlink missions. So that leads to an interesting conversation about where the first stage will be landing on today's mission, because they are attempting recovery. They will be attempting to recover the first stage, which is B1067 on Just Read the Instructions, which was tugged downrange by Cygnet Warhorse the first, and then Doug is supporting. But you may be thinking, wasn't there just one of these Galileo launches a few months ago, and wasn't it expended? And you would be correct. Originally, the Galileo FM25 and 27 mission, which launched in April of this year, was expended. It was the final flight of B1060. So from that launch, SpaceX learned a lot, and they realized they think they can recover it just in the same mission profile. So they've made very small adjustments to the booster, to the Ascent profile and whatnot, where they think they're going to have enough margin to recover this booster. However, it's going to be tight. So SpaceX has warned that this will be the highest energy Falcon 9 landing to date, and will be pushing the envelope. They'll be learning a lot. So there's a chance that we see this booster fail to land today. And if it does, we just have to remember SpaceX is pushing the border, and at the end of the day, it'll suck for SpaceX, but it'll be something that they're able to live with. Anyway, now going into some of the booster's history. As I mentioned, this is B1067 flying for its 22nd time. So that's not a record. However, it is one under the record. It first supported CRS-22, and then Crew 3, Turksat 5B, Crew 4, CRS-25, and then Starlink, Hotbird, mPOWER, Starlink, and a lot more Starlinks, and along with a few cool missions like Satria and Merah, Putih, the second launch of that. So a pretty exciting mission we have today. Lots not totally normal about this. And the one other thing that is worth mentioning, I think, is this is the return of Doug. So Doug, right, has been in port for the last about 2 months, getting some work done on it. Just normal maintenance, so they have not been using any missions. However, that maintenance is done, so Doug is back out, both doing ASDS support and fairing recovery, and now Bob is actually at port getting that same maintenance on it. So lots of cool stuff on this launch today.
Absolutely. And Trevor, do you mind quickly, because I see some confusion about that, about like what does pushing the envelope mean? Why is this booster actually why is it more challenging for a booster to land if they go more downrange or more energy? So do you mind giving like a quick rundown of what actually happens if a booster is a bit more risky to land?
Yeah, so right, this all starts by SpaceX knows they need to get these two satellites into their orbits. Um, and they know, right, the second stage has to perform several burns on today's mission. So there's obviously the first long burn to get into an initial orbit, like they do on every mission. And then there will be an additional few burns. One will be to raise the orbit, which that burn doesn't occur until about 3.5 hours after launch. So that'll be, we will not be covering that live today, but there will be another burn. And then after that, right, they'll generally try to do a burn to get it out of, to get it into a slightly different orbit so it doesn't interfere with any payloads. They will not be deorbiting today's stage though. Anyway, this all said, that takes a certain amount of delta V. So that means that your first stage has to give us a certain amount of delta V to be able to have this mission be a success. But the first stage only has a limited amount of delta V. So they are going to be using more of that during ascent, meaning there'll be less delta V available for landing. This means that they're going to have to cut down on the entry burn's length. And what this means is if the entry burn is shorter, the booster is going to be going faster when it hits the atmosphere. And peak heating is roughly proportional to the cube of velocity. So, if something is going 20% faster into the atmosphere, then there's actually going to be, sorry, I'm doing math real quick, about 70% more heat. So even if it's a small difference, it can be fairly substantial. And that's why today's mission is extra spicy. That entry burn will be shorter, meaning there'll be more heat that the booster has to deal with. And the last time that we saw SpaceX try to push the envelope, for those of you who may remember SDP-2, the heat actually it's damaged the TVC of the engine, so they lost control of the booster. And that was a failed landing attempt. So it's obviously very important that they're able to maintain control. But again, if they're not able to, it's not the end of the world. This booster is flying for its 22nd time.
There we go. And that's your quick explanation why this might be a spicy landing. And at this point, I think we have somebody from the field joining us, which is Julia. Julia, do we have you on comms?
Why, yes, you do. I am on comms from the very jungly patch of media space here in Florida, looking at a rocket on the pad. Very nice day here in Florida. We're a little bit more out of that tropical weather we've been experiencing with those thick clouds. So hopefully those are not a problem today. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, and absolutely. First off, welcome, Julia. Glad to have you on. And I think you're also in the field, joined by Max and Dee, who will also out today with today's launch, correct?
That is correct. And while we are discussing Max and Dee, who are working on getting set up for even better views of the pad, I would like everyone in chat to wish Max a happy birthday.
Absolutely. Happy birthday to Max, who is on his birthday out there and hopefully gets the biggest candle of all. At least we hope that. We should also point out that this is very instantaneous launch window. So if it doesn't launch in 49 minutes, no candle today. So that as a quick note. Julia, weather is a concern for today's launch. I think the early weather report has a 60% violation chance, with the main reason for violations being, there we go, a surface electric field rule, cumulus cloud rule, and anvil cloud rule. So do you mind giving us a quick overview of what your current overview is at the Cape? Do we have a cloud problem?
Well, over the pad right now, unlike the Polaris Dawn mission, we actually have pretty clear skies. But if I look a little bit more to the north, I can see where the concern would be coming from. If we happen to have a radar view, that is a little bit more northwest, could potentially be heading toward the pad. That would be the potential cloud that would cause problems in that 40 or that 60% chance. So everybody blow some kind thoughts our way. The way the waves are looking, I think maybe we can keep those clouds away long enough.
Yeah, let's hope for that. And also I hope for no thunder or anything, because the electric field rule certainly would also be a problem. If they get like some lightning and thunder in there, that would be bad. That's not what rocket like. So,
No, we don't like that. That's not the kind of candle ignition I would care for today.
Yep, we absolutely want to get Max a nice big birthday candle here. Let me thank some people here, with Rankley gifting 1 Red Team membership. Thank you so much for that, Rankley, and I hope somebody said thank you for that. And we also have Wacko Jones with a $20 super chat. Very generous of you, with the comment fireball returning to the drone. Yeah, let's hope it's a controlled fireball today that returns to the drone chip. That would be wonderful. Let's see though how it all develops. Let's see here. I think we have additional views here, and this very fancy view here is of Max. I love this angle. Wow. Julia, what's that building in front?
The building in front with the big X on it is the SpaceX payload processing facility, recently painted and branded to SpaceX. So yeah, it's kind of fancy. It looks a lot different than it used to during the Titan era, which was basically, military gray.
There we go. Absolutely gorgeous view. I'm looking forward to hopefully see a launch from this angle. Trevor, we are getting some FAA-related questions, if you can imagine that, after today.
We were expecting those.
Yep, absolutely. And Khaled here asking, if the booster fails to land today, will Falcon 9 be grounded?
Yes. So this is something that we've seen from the previous Starlink mission, where they had a failed landing the other day. That does trigger a mishap investigation report with the FAA under the new guidelines that went live in March of 2021. However, as we saw from that failed booster landing, it'll be a very quick analysis if something does happen, especially when they're ahead of time saying, hey, this landing may not go as we plan because we're intentionally pushing the limits. So if SpaceX, right, once that mishap investigation is triggered, they have two options. They can either close the report, that won't be the option they go for, to return back to flight, or they can prove that there was no increased risk to public safety. And once they can prove that to the FAA, if the FAA agrees, which they would, like we've seen both with Starship and Falcon now, they can return to flight without having completed that mishap investigation and work on the mishap investigation report in the background. So that it would get grounded, but it would be a very, very short grounding. So short that it has the potential to not even affect SpaceX's launch cadence.
There we go. So don't worry about that. It's probably not going to be a big concern of it. We also have another topic here, and I will quickly summarize this topic before we dive into this question. Earlier today, the Federal Aviation Administration has announced proposed fines against SpaceX for violating on two different Falcon launches. One was a Falcon 9 launch where they apparently were proposing a change of operation center and also a change of operations in the launch countdown, and that they removed the T-2 hour polling. And the other one was a Falcon Heavy launch where they used a tank farm that was not yet licensed to be operated during a Falcon Heavy launch. These proposed fines were combined at $633,000 and $633,009, I should say. Don't forget the $9 at the end. And it has been a bit of a topic in the overall space community today. And we also should say that, Trevor, this might be not that much of a surprise to SpaceX, right? Like, this could very much be a situation where they just accept this to launch, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a possibility that SpaceX knew that they were breaking the rules and decided that the fine was worth, like, it would be cheaper to launch the missions, pay the fine, than it would be to stand down while they wait for proper approval. However, SpaceX's CEO, Elon Musk, did post on X saying that they are going to sue the FAA over these fines, saying that, in their opinion, the fines, or this is the FAA fining them for basically things that SpaceX believes they're not responsible for. So who really knows what actually went on? At the end of the day, while to all of us $600,000 sounds like a ton of money, to SpaceX it is not. I'm sure they would rather not pay it, of course, and I'm sure the lawsuit is more of a matter of principle than it is the amount, but I don't know. It's really hard, I must say, to have an opinion on this when so little information is given.
Yep.
Like, it would have been one thing if the FAA would have come out and been like, yeah, SpaceX failed to comply with Y requirements when they transitioned to a different launch center. Then it would be like, okay, SpaceX, what's your response? When it's no information, it's like I can't form an opinion. So
yeah, I also will not pinpoint to any opinion, and don't try to get a full fleshed out opinions out of us, because I will fully admit I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a person that fully understands all the legal implications of this, and somebody like looking at I'm a space journalist, also trying to inform this. And right now the information density, as Trevor said, is quite low. So honestly, I would rather see this as something that these two parties have to sort out right now, and not super dive into it and go and do this ants nest or something like that, to word it like that. On the things of we can do is, for example, provide you another view. Imagine if we had another view from D in the field, which is also another very cool view. We have so many views today. D, I think you're on comms today for a quick hello.
I sure am. How do you hear me?
We are hearing you just fine.
Yeah, it is a gorgeous day out here. It started to cool off a bit, and we've got this nice close viewing location to Slick 40. I always love to be out here and see launches, but having an excellent view makes it all that much better.
Absolutely. And I'm looking forward to get all of the views today. If hopefully they will launch today in 40 minutes. And speaking of in 40 minutes, do you actually mind, Trevor, giving us a quick overview? What will happen in the next 40 minutes, and when do we might see indications if they go for today's launch window?
Yeah, so as you were mentioning, today's launch window is instantaneous. So if they don't start fueling in 5 minutes, they will have to delay for 24 hours. And I believe the launch window, the launch time tomorrow is exactly the same time, or weather is improving from a 60% chance of violation to a 20% chance of violation. Um, but if teams decide to go ahead with today's attempt, that will begin in 2 minutes and 40 seconds when the LD will verify that they're go for propellant load. So right now they have that poll open internally, and people can just click a button on the computer if they're go or if they're not go. Um, not quite as cool as a verbal call out, but we'll live with it. If they decide that they are go, that will begin 3 events happening at the same time. The first will be RP1 being loaded onto both stages, and then liquid oxygen will begin being loaded onto the first stage. Shortly after that, a little bit after that, at the famous T minus 20 minute and 20-second event, is when they will begin preparing lines for chill down ahead of liquid oxygen load onto stage 2. The one thing that's interesting about stage 2 on today's mission, as you can see from this wonderful view that D is bringing us, is there's that little gray stripe above the inner stage. And that is because, as I mentioned earlier, they will be doing several burns on today's mission. So they will have that initial burn, which will end a little over 8 minutes after launch. And then 3.5 hours into launch, they will do another burn to circularize the orbit into that medium Earth orbit that they will deploy the satellites into. So what that little gray stripe does is it helps absorb some energy so that the RP1 doesn't become a solid, right? The RP1, its freezing point is a little under 0 centigrade, like, I don't know, maybe negative 30 centigrade, somewhere in there, which is much warmer than it is on orbit. So they just added this on these long missions. They add this little gray band to help absorb some thermal energy so that the RP1 stays at the appropriate temperature. So that's the RP1 tank, and then right above that is the LOX tank. Hopefully, and then they'll do some more fueling events, but we'll get into that more later if they get there. Of course, our first signs will be about in 2.5 minutes when the race will begin as to whether we see the frost line first on the booster, or if SpaceX gives us official confirmation.
Yep, the usual race of what comes first, the SpaceX tweet or the frost ring. Usually quite tight race. Like we had a few of them where it's like seconds between confirmation and that. So SpaceX Media, it's on. We're looking forward to see that race. Let's see here. I'm asking. Oh, this is an interesting one because it involves boats, Julia. So it involves actually ASOC. What's the latest on ASOC, and is it affecting launch cadence? So of course ASOC had a bit of a rough landing on it. Is it like being repaired right now? Is there anything updated on it, or do you think it's just fine?
Well, let's put it this way. We do not know if that was planned maintenance that ASOC went in for, or maintenance because, well, things landed very hard on the deck. Either way, it didn't look from the air like there was too terribly much damage. So we're gonna say probably planned maintenance. Either way, with the cadence that we have right now, we should be okay, because remember, we do have a Falcon Heavy that is expendable coming up. I think we'll be okay. Is it the cadence that they maybe want to carry out? No. But right now they can only launch from one launch pad until Launch Complex 39 is converted over to Heavy, and that mission has gone. And Crew 9 is even going to be launching from Launch Complex 40. So really, the cadence is going to work out for one launch pad and an expendable from 39. So I'm not too worried right now.
You could make the case that if there's a time to do like scheduled maintenance on one of your drone ships, it would probably be right now. So
Probably, yeah. I imagine going into Q4, SpaceX is really, really going to be pushing toward that goal that they set at the beginning of the year. So now is the time because you won't have time later.
yeah, speaking about that goal, Trevor, I know you're spreadsheeting this a bit, and you're also like very informed about the cadence. How do you see the whole current SpaceX cadence, and where are we? And is their goal still realistic?
Unfortunately, their goal is certainly not realistic. In fact, if you plot all of the launches in 2024 against one another, um, especially the like a little bit of later parts of 2024, the launch cadence has actually increased throughout the year by just a little bit. Actually, hold on, I just redid that. That is no longer the case. They brought that back down. But anyway, the launch cadence has been pretty stationary throughout the year. So if you assume a linear regression between launch times as the year goes on, fit a line of best fit through that, and extrapolate through the end of the year, SpaceX is going to be right at about 130 launches. However, if you allow for an exponential fit to try to take into account some of the lessons that they've learned and improvements in the last half of the year, then they're looking more at about 135 launches this year. So they're definitely not going to hit that 148 mark. They had too many rough months this summer. However, they'll still definitely set a record and increase their launch cadence over last year by 35%, somewhere in there.
There we go. Just always curious because, of course, that's still an impressive number. Don't like we are not saying like, oh, SpaceX gonna fail their goals. Like, yes, they might miss a very ambitious goal, but it's still an impressive launch cadence. I mean, we are talking about like a launch almost between every 2 and 3 days. It's not that shabby as a launch cadence for an orbital class rocket. So
Yeah, they had some really rough periods this summer. Like obviously when 9-3 failed, that set them back for 2 weeks, and then before that, when they had a streak of bad weather, and then during the one launch opportunity they had that T0 abort. That really hurt them, and then of course the landing failure delayed a few launches, and just between weather this season has not been cooperative for them. So that made their goal very, very difficult.
Yep, absolutely. It's kind of a rough season right now. That makes it even more important that they sometimes get these lucky launches, like these things where you're like, oh, it's more unlikely that they launch today, but might happen. It happened with Polaris Dawn. Remember that? When we kind of almost gave up on the launch day of Polaris Dawn because the chance was so low, and then it launched?
Yeah.
That was a good time.
Ooh,
Yeah, I think I
we
see
have
vapors, right?
confirmation. We have confirmation from SpaceX as well, and they are saying weather has improved to being 60% favorable for liftoff.
There we go. See, that's the trend we want to hear. That's always the good trend. I also see vapors from the bottom of Falcon 9. So we now see RP1 and liquid oxygen flowing into the Falcon 9, which is good. That's what we want to see. So I think we have one special little picture we want to show here off because, as again we said earlier, it's our very own Mac's birthday, and that means you get cake apparently at NSF. Right, Julia?
Absolutely. It is a chocolate chip cookie cake, to be exact. Seems fitting.
That's absolutely amazing. I hope Max enjoys that. And again, happy birthday, Max. And then we see the Falcon 9 for today. Let's dive into some more questions here as we are now in the crunch time of this countdown. 31 minutes more to go. Trevor, if the data shows the landing probably won't make it, will they bail on the landing to protect the drone ship?
Yes. So this is how all of the landings work with Falcon 9, and also we can assume this will be how it is for Super Heavy, where the booster actually targets a spot in the ocean that's kind of far away from the drone ship or ground pad. And then it's not until the engines have ignited successfully that the booster is able to start this pretty intense pitch maneuver to pitch over to get itself over the drone ship for landing. So if something does go wrong and they can't ignite those engines, or the booster isn't happy with something on board, it'll just go splash right into the ocean, and just read the instructions will be perfectly safe. It's only if the booster is happy with everything that it even attempts to target the drone ship.
There we go. And again, we said it earlier, but since then a lot of people joined, so I want to point out again, this is a bit of the high on the envelope kind of landing that they're attempting, and this is according to SpaceX. This is not something we're guessing right now. So if the landing goes wrong, and that's still a big if, that might be because they're trying something up there today. So yeah, it's kind of gonna be interesting, and that makes it spicy for today. And we like spicy launches. Like we like sometimes if they put something in there that we can observe, that we can like view and maybe analyze. So it's always interesting. Let's see here. Which other questions has yes, did we assume that a landing fail would trigger a mishap investigation? Daniel Rydell with a $4.99 super chat here, Trevor, asking, is that VAB-like building new? We answered that earlier, it's not new, but are they now doing vertical integration of Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy? Thanks.
No, they are not. This is just for payload processing and integration. So I believe it was the Titan rockets before they were integrated vertically. However, Falcon 9 is not. They still just do the encapsulation of payloads in this building, and then they roll it out to Slick 40's horizontal integration facility for to install the payload stack onto the Falcon stack, which then gets rolled out to launch to Slick 40 for launch. SpaceX still is not able to do vertical encapsulation with vertical integration with Falcon 9 and Heavy. That's something that, if they decide to do, will only be done on 39A with that vertical integration facility. However, it sounds like that's a ways out from being needed, if it's ever even needed.
Yeah, and Alex also saying that Falcon 9 wouldn't even be able to, like, this is a weird perspective right now, because it looks like that launch pad is right next to this giant building, right? But apparently the Falcon 9 wouldn't even fit into that. Like,
yeah,
in vertically. So
Falcon,
you're a bit messed up here by perspective.
Falcon 9 is a huge rocket. Like, I think we are kind of, since we often compare it to like New Glenn or Starship, we kind of get this idea that Falcon 9 is small, but Falcon 9 is huge.
Yeah, it's people always lose the sense of perspective of Falcon 9, because Falcon 9 seems so almost generic at this point, right? Because we always see it flying, and it's like the everyday rocket, so it's not that big, right? Well, before Falcon Heavy and before SLS flew and before we talked about Starship, it was kind of one of the biggest rockets in the world. It still is one of the biggest rockets in the world. So
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind, it's a heavy lift rocket when expended.
Yep. Absolutely something that messes with the perspective here. And just to give you a few more numbers here, this pad that you see in the background that looks like it's right next to this building is 1.55 miles further behind. So again, it's a bit of a perspective thing here that messes with your perception here. But Falcon 9 would not fit through that door. So there you go. Is this booster the fleet leader?
If it successfully lands, then it has potential to be the next fleet leader. Right, the most times a booster has flown is 23. However, right, B1062 did fail to land after that. But there are other ones in contender too. Like, I believe it's 61. Yeah, 61 is at 22 flights as well. So it'll be tied with B1061, and then it'll probably be a toss-up of if SpaceX flies 61 next or 67 next.
But a question I have? Which one has flown the most Starlink missions? Because this booster has flown 12 Starlink missions, 2 Crew and 2 CRS. So I wonder which one had the most Starlink. Someone in the back channel maybe check that one out.
61 only has 10 Starlink missions.
There you go. It's gonna be interesting, right? Because you also then get into the point of like who has launched the most individual satellites. That's quite an interesting rabbit hole to go down to.
And I think it's
So-
interesting too that this one's having a very spicy landing during a commercial mission and not a Starlink. So that feels like kind of a first, knowing that I may see a splashdown in water today. But as long as the payload gets where it's going, that's what matters.
I think the good thing is the Ascent is not really affected by that, right? So it's they can take that risk because it's in a part where the customer like as hard as it sounds, the customer doesn't care if it lands.
Nope. As long as their payload gets where it's going, their money went where it was supposed to. So.
Yep. Like of course, with Galileo, we should probably talk a bit more about the payload here with the European Union, FD, and the operators, ESA and OISPA. They only care if their Galileo satellite reach the constellation. They don't care if the Falcon 9 gets to the ground. And of course, just to recap, Galileo is basically a European launched or like a European operated GPS. It's a global navigation satellite system. It has actually also a public service where you can get public GPS data, and that's actually free to use. And then you also have like a government and military applications to it, and commercial applications which are then pay to use. So yeah, Galileo quite an often used system for all kinds of applications that need global navigation data and global navigation positioning data. So quite interesting to see them launch now. And also, Trevor, we should probably talk about the history of these payloads, right? Because they were not supposed to launch on Falcon 9.
Yeah. This is just one of many examples of payloads being moved to Falcon. They were originally supposed to fly on Soyuz, but then, of course, events happened with Russia that made everyone in Europe and the West in general decide, nah, maybe we shouldn't fly on Soyuz. But then I believe it was moved from Soyuz to Ariane 6. And then Ariane 6, they now just had too many delays that they decided to move it to Falcon 9.
Yep, that's actually the 100% the history here. Ariane 6 just doesn't have the cadence yet to get to support these kind of launches. So yeah, it had to move to Falcon 9. And I still think, as a European, it's kinda not cool that we cannot launch our own GPS constellation or our own positioning constellation. But hey, that's just me. We're getting there, but right now I'm not happy about that. That's an interesting one. What's your guys' favorite thing about Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy? What's our single most interesting thing that we like and favorite thing? Does anybody have something that sparks into their mind right now?
I do.
Oh, go ahead.
For me, it's the launch cadence. I mean, I love analyzing all of that stuff, and heck, I built a website around it so I could track it even better. I think it's fascinating to analyze.
Absolutely. I think it actually has enough data and sample size that it's interesting to analyze, right? Because imagine if you would analyze every other rocket company's cadence, there's way less data.
Yeah, plus it's only really super interesting to analyze if the rocket is launching at its max cadence, which Falcon is the only rocket in the world doing that.
I think for me, I think also like the cadence for certain is very like high up there. I think the cadence just makes it interesting, and also the like. I know we are talking about recent, but you know what? Also, is a very interesting part of Falcon 9. For example, the T-20 minute event, which is about to happen here any second now. And Trevor, what is this T-20 minute event, and why are we finding it interesting?
Yeah, so this is the T-20 minute and 20-second event. Yeah, there may have been a slight delay in the T0, or it may not have been on top of the hour. We'll have to wait and see when it starts. But this T-20 minute and 20-second event chills down the lines ahead of liquid oxygen load on the second stage. And while we wait to see it start, this is a little odd.
It's just
there it is. So it looks like they're targeting later in the like this a little bit later in that minute, probably. What I didn't have my watch up to see when exactly that event started, but Alex will figure it out for us. Probably like 50 seconds after the minute or something like that. Anyway, what this vent is doing is, as I mentioned earlier, the liquid oxygen load does not start until T-16 minutes. And the reason why they do that is because they want the liquid oxygen on that second stage to be as cold as possible for those burns. So because the tank is so small, they don't need to start loading it early. So they just load it as late as they can in order to have that temperature minimized. So therefore, this is just them purging those lines ahead of liquid oxygen load, which will begin in 2.5 minutes.
Yep, absolutely. And that was kind of interesting and tense with the event not happening. That was interesting. I was not prepared for that. But hey, we got it with a bit of a suspense here. Speaking of suspense about conditions, Julia, how's the weather looking now 18 minutes before launch? Do we still watch some clouds? Do we hear some thunder? What's going on over your end?
Well, that T-20 minute event is venting toward us, so it might be a little bit deceptive to y'all. As I look a little bit to the north, that cloud that I said looked like it could be a problem looks a little bit more like a UFO right now. It's flattened out a bit and feathered out at the edges, if you can imagine that. Otherwise, it's a breezy day here, and breezy is wonderful.
Yep, breezy. We like breezy. Breezy is not like heavy wind. Breezy is a bit of wind. That's okay. That's fine. Is there any potential thunder in the air?
No. I don't anticipate thunder in the air. Maybe a couple sprinkles. And I just had 2 content creators jump up to take a picture of my UFO cloud, so maybe you all will get to see that.
Did you just call our photographers content creator?
We create a lot of different content. Yes.
Wonderful. I love that. There we go. 17 minutes here to go in the countdown. Everything progressing smoothly, it seems, to the launch of the Galileo L13 mission, which is progressing nicely. There's one of the shots of the content creators here. I'm also seeing names like influencers and citizen journalists here. We are getting all kinds of name recommendations here for our people. So there you go. Xeters, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that picture. That's the UFO cloud. Gina G here asking, how long into the flight should we hear the VAB squeal? I listen out every time and I'm never sure I actually hear anything. Julia, what's this VAB squeal, and would it expect on a launch today?
Depends which microphone we use. If we use the microphone at the press site, there is a chance you'll hear it. Not as well as if we were launching from 39A. But there is a chance. Now, that squeal can sound like several things. One of them being, you can kind of imagine a freight train crossed with a bottle rocket. but it's a high vibration squeal. I can't really describe it. I'm so sorry, but think freight train and bottle rocket somehow combined, and you've got the right sound. Incredibly, with this PPF in front of us, it has similar doors to the VAB, but I don't think they resonate quite the same as the larger doors at the VAB.
Maybe that's me totally describing it wrong, but I always imagine it like it's a very high pitch, right? Like it's almost like a high pitch alarm sometimes.
Yeah, that's actually pretty accurate. And when there is a return to LZ1 or 2, what will happen is it actually really does sound like one of those squealing bottle rockets going up when the sonic boom resonates.
Interesting. So yeah, but I will also update that we don't expect it to hear today because of our microphone placement. So there's a very high chance that we
Yeah, to be
are.
fair, y'all really do want the microphone that's with us this close to the pad because that is the best sound.
Yep, and we will make sure to get you the best sound because that's always our goal: best sound, best pictures. So yeah, we also have a bit of interesting news on the weather front. It seems there is some lightning in the area, but not yet in problematic. It's like around Titusville right now. So is Titusville close to where we need to be
Titusville
concerned?
is where I'm from. If you're watching from US 1, you're approximately 12 miles away from Launch Complex 39A and B. So with that being said, I believe our weather radius for lightning is 10 miles. So y'all need to do those rain dances and lightning dances to keep that behind us, please.
Yep, there we go. Astrotech, you can see the weather board there. It's a bit low resolution, but Astrotech has turned a lightning warning phase 2, which is the red warning. That shouldn't be a concern for today's launch, but it shows you the general area situation. And you can also see lightning warning phase 1 on basically everything else. So we are watching it, and SpaceX is watching it, as they have confirmed. So we will see how this all develops, and if they are able to just go where the window allows them to do it. So yeah, we'll see what happens here. Trevor, is Slick 40 yet rated for crew? Are we good to launch crew from there?
So that's the official certification that NASA is doing with SpaceX is kind of done behind doors as far as I know. That said, there is a launch from Slick 40 with crew in a week from tonight. So I would guess that if they're not certified yet, it'll be very, very soon, and perhaps in one of the launch readiness reviews or flight readiness reviews or something like that.
Yep, there we go. It's interesting because of course we will see crew launching at some point from here. It's very clone coming up, and I'm looking forward to see that because I think it's a gorgeous looking pad at this point. The crew access tower just makes it complete. So
and on that note, it's kind of confusing for me because driving around on base, that's not something I've been used to for the last 5 years. So when you just quick look up, you don't always know where you are because, believe it or not, 39A and 40 look very similar now.
Yeah, it's sometimes we have these shots where you see the crew access arm and you're like, oh, that's 39A, and then you're like, oh no, it's not.
We've all made that mistake.
Yep, absolutely. So let's see that we need to find like other indicators. I think the 4 towers sometimes really help you because the 4 towers are like a very distinct indicator. So yeah, that's always helping as well. Let me show you something here because we are talking about Merlin here today, right? And Falcon 9 is, of course, powered by nine Merlin engines. We see where I'm going with this crossover, with the segue. I'm talking, of course, about our thrust collection. A collection I honestly love. I'm actually wearing the BE4 hoodie right now. You can get it from Raptor, Merlin, RS25, and BE4. And I think it's one of the coolest and amazing looking merch items we have ever done. You can get it on hoodies, we can get it on t-shirts, on women's shirts, on sweatshirts, on mugs. I think it's a very, very comfortable hoodie, and it's a very, very cool design. So if you want to get that, go to shop.nasaspaceflight.com, click on the banner that says Thrust Collection, and get your favorite engine. I honestly love it. I'm not saying this because I'm on the stream here. I'm just saying this because I'm wearing it right now, and I can tell you it's comfortable, and I love it. So go there. Then thanks for the support. And with that, we're just 10 minutes away from the 10 minutes and 40 seconds from the expected launch here. Everything progressing smoothly right now. So, Trevor, how does the next 10 minutes look like, and what little milestones will SpaceX now tick off in preparation for launch?
Yeah, so there is quite a bit coming up. This will start at T-minus 7 minutes with the chill down of those 9 Merlin engines that you were just alluding to. That's when they run a little bit of liquid oxygen through the turbo machinery, and that ensures that the engines are, not at room temperature when they start running liquid oxygen, which is negative 210 degrees centigrade through them. Then after this, we'll expect that strong back. So right, you can kind of see there are a lot of towers at this pad now, but the one right by the rockets that's kind of covering the rocket from this view, that is the strong back and transport erector. That will retract by about 1.8 degrees, and that will, make it so that the booster is now holding more of its weight and just getting it out of the way for launch. A few minutes later, we will begin a series of events of propellant load finishing on the vehicle. So we'll start with RP1 load being finished on stage 1, followed by liquid oxygen load being finished on stage 1 and then stage 2. And that will take us to T-minus 60 seconds, which is when the vehicle will enter an event known as startup, and that is when the vehicle's onboard computers take control of the countdown. Also at this time, the vehicle will begin pressurizing its tanks to flight pressure. Then at T-minus 45 seconds, we should be getting that go from the launch director before at T-minus 2.7 seconds, those 9 Merlin 1D engines will begin their ignition sequence. So they'll ignite in pairs, and those pairs it's done in pairs to reduce startup transients. And then if all 9 engines are up running nominally, they will launch at T0.
Absolutely, and that's the expected procedure today, and of course we hope that. And also thanks for supporting us. I see Raptor Marks selling there, so that's very generous. Thank you so much. Also very generous here is the generous support we are getting here. Danny Joe becoming a PadRed member. Thank you so much for that. Tom Braxton becoming a Capcom member, which gives you access to our member level Discord. So if you want to discuss space all day, that's probably your place to go. Tom Braxton gifting 2 Red Team memberships. Thank you so much for that. And everybody enjoy these pictures that you got there if you get the Red Team memberships. And also sometimes we have other little behind the scenes things you can get there as well. So make sure to check out that page. And then we have a very, very generous support here from Jim Edgar with a $50 super chat. Thank you so much, Jim, for that. And Jim saying, Lisa Bean and Jim Edgar watching the launch from Snoqualmie, Washington with the cats. I don't think they know what they are watching, though. I hope the cats will enjoy it still. And nice shout outs to the cats here as well. And thanks again for that very, very generous support. That makes sure that we can keep on doing this and keep on covering every single launch that we can get our hands on. So thanks for that. Let's see here. What is the sphere at the edge of the screen, Trevor? Do we know that? What commodity is stored in that, or is that a radar antenna?
Yeah, that's radar. That's not, that has nothing to do with holding propellant. The propellant tanks are around the pad. They have a liquid oxygen section and then a liquid nitrogen section and then some other tanks for helium and RP1. But I don't think any of those are visible from this angle.
Absolutely. Just speed running some question here. Is it correct that this booster has flown 21 times? Yes. This will be the 22nd flight of this booster. And yeah, it's so far looking mighty fine. Another interesting question here is the Falcon 9 held down by clamps during engine startup?
Yes, there are a bunch of, I believe, they're hydraulic clamps that hold the vehicle down. And then as soon as the vehicle detects that all 9 engines are healthy, they will command shut. They will command the clamps to let go of the rocket so they can lift off.
There we go. That's that. Of course, in contrast to, for example, Starship, which releases the clamps a bit earlier. Also, the fairings for today's mission, by the way, are doing their 8th and 3rd flight. So also that is reused here. With that, I want to do a last check-in before the launch here with Julia. Julia, anything new on the cloud and weather front? We are still looking good?
I'm looking behind me and, my UFO cloud's getting a little bit closer, but that's not the cloud of concern. It appears things should be staying off the coast of Titusville and away from us. So I'm excited.
There we go. And with that, I will let you go and enjoy this hopefully wonderful launch, Julia, and we will see you on the other side.
We'll see you on the other side.
And with that, just 4 minutes and 45 seconds away here. Falcon 9 almost topped off on everything it needs to launch, and we are getting ready to hopefully observe another Falcon 9. SpaceX, of course, still watching the weather, but we might just get lucky here. And yeah, just a quick recap of the recovery. The recovery on this is a bit spicy. The recovery, according to SpaceX, is basically right up the envelope of what they are used to, and it's still possible, but it might just be a bit more dicey than usual. So the flight of B1067, which will fly forward to a 22nd time, might be interesting to watch until the touchdown on Just Read the Instructions, which is stationed, of course, in the Atlantic Ocean. So that's your overview here. Today's payloads are 2 Galileo constellation satellites, which are hopefully launching in 3 minutes and 45 seconds. A quick that's actually a very quick answer here. Trevor, I don't know if somebody has asked this already, but why is SpaceX able to recover this booster, but not the one for the previous Galileo mission?
Yeah, so this just comes down to SpaceX learned a lot on that previous expended flight in April of this year. And with the data that they gathered, they think that they are able to recover today's booster. They're making some minor adjustments to like the vehicle launch profile and some other stuff vehicle side that they didn't go into detail on. But with all of these changes, they think that they're going to be able to recover the booster. They're admitting that it'll be on toward basically the very top of their bound for air. So with air, they may be above that bound and not be able to recover it. But no matter what, they're reasonably confident and view it as a great way to gather more data. Right? This is really the SpaceX way.
Absolutely. And we will see how this goes. We are expecting a 2-minute vent here in a bit, right, Trevor?
Yep. This is purging all of those lines on the transporter erector. So it's similar to the T-minus 20-minute vents, but now instead of preparing for liquid oxygen load, they're just preparing for, they want the lines to be empty.
And do we expect a stubby nozzle today?
Thankfully not. This is a very high performance mission where SpaceX needs basically every ounce of performance out of this vehicle as possible. Right, they're not even 100% sure if they'll be able to recover the boosters. They definitely don't have margin for the second stage stubby nozzle, so it is a full-length nozzle.
And I also want to give a quick mention to the clock in the top left, because we expect there's some interesting, like we are not fully 100% sure which exact second they are targeting here. So get ready for there might be some a bit of a shenanigans, and when we will see the final launch here, and we will of course try to stay accurate with that. So, but we'll see what happens here, and with that we're just 70 seconds away here from the Galileo launch. The next thing that will happen is the Falcon 9 will take over the launch countdown, which means basically that the Falcon 9 launch computer take full control of this launch countdown, and after that the Falcon 9 also has full control about what will happen next. After that, we will see the final go from the launch director, hopefully in these conditions, and once that has given, it's all just a few more seconds until we will see the deluge system spinning up at the bottom of the rocket, T-tap igniting the 9 Merlin engines, and then hopefully a Falcon 9 liftoff. And we have go for launch for today's Falcon 9 with just 30 seconds to go. From now on, it's just on Falcon 9. Watch for the bottom of the rocket. There you can see the deluge system. The deluge system is, of course, used to suppress the forces, sound, and energy during liftoff when these 9 Merlin engines roar to life. And that will spool up a bit before launch, which should just happen in a second. Now you can hear a helicopter in the background that is flying around the press site here, so don't mind that. And with that, look at the bottom. There's the deluge system. And there should be ignition any second now. There is ignition of 9 Merlin engines, and there is liftoff of the Galileo L13 launch, carrying 2 more satellites for Galileo. And it looks like so far everything going well on this ascent of Galileo, as we are 1 minute and 20 seconds into flight. Trevor, what's next for this booster?
Yes, we're coming up on a series of 3 events here in just about a minute and a half. The first will be, of course, main engine cutoff, which is when those 9 Merlin 1D engines on the first stage will shut down, also in pairs. Then shortly after this, the stages will separate before the second stage engine will ignite. At that point, the 2 vehicles will be on different trajectories. The second stage will continue going to that initial transfer orbit, while the first stage will perform 2 additional burns to hopefully touch down softly on Just Read the Instructions. So that's all coming up here in about 20 seconds is when we expect MECO to begin.
There we go. And we can now see the final moments of this Falcon 9 booster burning for Ascent. And of course, then the spicy descent starts with the pushing the envelope landing here. So watch for the shutdown, the staged shutdown, shutting down 2 engines at a time. There it is. That's main engine cutoff. And next up is stage separation. There it is. And there's the beautiful, fully extended Merlin vacuum nozzle now igniting and also roasting the booster a bit.
Then we're about 30 seconds away from fairing separation, which is when those 2 fairings will be deployed from the vehicle. And as we mentioned earlier, those will be recovered by Doug. So this is Doug's first mission back in a long time. And one of those fairing halves is flying for its 8th time, and the other is flying for its 3rd time.
And we are also seeing numbers for MECO here with a speed of 8,750 kilometers an hour and an altitude of 66.7 kilometers for MECO. That's quite spicy and high, right, Trevor?
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly higher than the average Starlink mission, but I would have to do some math to figure out how much more energy the vehicle actually has. Hopefully, Alex in our back channel will do that.
There goes the fairing, and we just saw the Airbus satellites, the Galileo satellites. So quite interesting. Fastest MECO for any recovered booster I have seen, says Alex. And that's meaning a lot because Alex has seen quite a lot of launches.
Yeah, it's basically all of them.
Yeah, basically all of them. So this is going to be interesting. We will watch this booster with great interest, and we'll see how it goes here, as we are now 420 into the mission. Next up, of course, is the entry burn, where the booster will slow itself down in protection of the speed and re-entry forces. And we are now seeing it has reached apogee and now going down as the second stage on the right. As you can see, the telemetry on the bottom right for the second stage is speeding up more and more. So quite interesting. Julia, I think we have you back on comms. How was that?
Let me tell you, the sun came out through the clouds, and the clouds created a filter shining on the pad, and it was absolutely gorgeous and sounded, oh my gosh, you guys, loud and beautiful.
That's what we want to hear. And from what we can tell, so far this mission is going quite well.
And so far, from what I can tell, our pictures are going quite well too. So hopefully we can share those soon.
Nice. We love good pictures. And there you can see that's the booster upper part there. And again, there might be a spicy landing coming up. We'll see. And the first challenge this booster, of course, has to endure is probably quite a fast entry burn. Or like an entry burn at a high pace. But Alex will probably confirm that in our back channel if that is high speed for an entry burn. Okay, he's saying really fast. So this is gonna be interesting. There's the steering.
It'll also be interesting to see if they're able to maintain connection during this re-entry.
Absolutely. And there's entry burn. 1 engine, and we should see the switch to 3 engines. There it is. And now 3 engines burning on this booster, as they're trying to slow it down as much as they have before the landing burn. And 1 engine and shutdown of the booster with now 6,100 kilometers an hour.
That seems very fast to me.
Yep. This is going to be interesting. Yep.
Yeah,
Alex is saying speed after entry burn is fast.
Yeah, we'll try to get some more quantitative numbers on this at some point than us just saying it looks fast. Oh, it looks like we have lost stage 1. So let's just pay attention to that telemetry in the bottom left.
We should say we lost the telemetry of stage 1. We don't like the videos. We didn't lose the stage. So let's see how it goes. And just 10 kilometers. You can see still the telemetry is back. And we hope to get some visuals here very soon. After drone ship. Landing burn should come up in a bit.
Them still having telemetry is a good sign. And there you can also see second stage is now in orbit. That perigee, or that apogee is slowly raising, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, you can see how it almost forms now the arc. It's really cool. 2.4 kilometers.
Yeah, bottom left, pay attention to that. It looks like they're probably in landing burn now.
Yeah, still no views from it though.
Let's try to have ones from the drone ship.
Interesting. That speed seems rather high.
Oh, there we go. That
Oh,
looks good.
yep.
Let's
That's a
go.
touchdown.
And that is SpaceX's 349th booster landing and the 8th consecutive since their last failure. And then, of course, the highest energy Falcon 9 landing to date. So the envelope has been expanded.
That seemed rather like good, smooth actually, for the fact that this was an envelope pushing mission. Quite nice, SpaceX. So let's see. We also had Seeker 1 meanwhile. So everything looks good on this mission so far. And if you like some replays, we are working on them. I can already tease you there are some replays coming your way. So if you want to see amazing slow-mos and replays and everything, make sure to stick around. Because we have quite a bit on this broadcast still to do. Talking about things that still have a bit to do, of course, we saw the mission extension kit on this Falcon 9 second stage. So, Trevor, how long does the second stage now stays there until it burns again? And why would they do this second stage extending kit?
Yeah, so the next burn isn't for about 3 hours and 20 minutes. It's T plus 3 hours, 26 minutes, and 52 seconds. And that burn will last 29 seconds. So what they're doing is they're waiting to get to the apogee of this orbit so that they're able to raise it. So keep in mind, right, the higher, assuming you're in a circular orbit, the higher orbit you're in, the slower or the longer your orbital period is. So for example, right, low Earth orbit, your orbital period is around 90 minutes, depending on the orbit exactly. But then in geostationary orbit, which is at 35,000 kilometers, right, your orbital period is 24 hours in sync with the Earth. So that's why it's so long after launch. Since they're in this medium Earth orbit, they have to wait a while to do that burn. And what this burn is doing is it's going to raise the perigee to help circularize the orbit into that medium Earth orbit. And to do this, the reason why they do this is because it's more efficient. And the advantage that mission extension package does is it helps make sure that they have enough helium and RCS thruster propellant and whatnot to coast for 3 hours.
Absolutely amazing, though, that they have that. Like, I love how these small little details that make Falcon 9 even more like give it more capabilities, give it more ways to do certain profiles. It's really a journey that Falcon 9 has go through over the years. If you like, it's hard to even compare it to the initial Falcon 9. It's not really the same rocket anymore. So, absolutely insane. And there we see, I think we call it the favorite view of DAS, the empty launch pad.
Hasn't DAS said he never actually said this was his favorite view and we just like assigned it to him?
Well, then we just continue the trend and I will still assign it to him.
Yeah.
I think we'll just let the legend live in this case. So, yeah. So, Julia, looks like everything went picture perfect?
I would say picture perfect is a good description of that.
Speaking of pictures, there you have a picture of Julia. That was a segue, right?
That was a great segue.
Wonderful picture, Julia. That looks amazing.
Why, thank you.
And I think that's also a streak shot from you, right?
That is a
Wow.
daytime streak shot, which those are really fun, especially from here. But yes, quite a candle that was lit for Max's birthday.
Yep, absolutely. I feel like I need to, like, I'm obviously on air right now. I need to get to the good old metal print store in a bit and upload some things here. because we are getting some amazing pictures from this.
Ooh, maybe
So,
I
yeah.
might have to upload some things to Adrian.
Yeah, maybe I need that. And again, happy birthday, Max! What a great surprise from SpaceX here for your birthday. And I think, do we have more pictures? I'm not sure if we have more pictures. I will just throw that into the void that is Carson operating here, and hope that magically something moves. But if it doesn't, maybe he was not prepared yet. But oh, there we go. Max shot of the liftoff. Oh, that's fantastic! Look at that inferno. It's absolutely stunning. Oh, look at the reflection, actually. That's amazing. Wonderful shot, Max. So let's and I can tease you, there is a slow-mo coming. And it's gonna be good, chat. Chat, you will eat nice slow-mos today. By the way, that's the camera being a bit tilted. Don't think the tower's like tilted. That's not a tower. That's our camera. Just because I see it, and if I see it, I know some people in chat will see it and will panic about it. So I'm just saying that.
Oh yeah, I didn't
I
even
thi-
realize at first.
That's like a glass breaking moment, right? When once you see it, like that's
Yeah,
angled.
I cannot unsee it.
Yep, I'm staring at it right now. Sorry, Chad. I'm very sorry. People are wondering if we're like very close to the rocket. Julia, is this like this is a bit of an unusual spot, right? And a bit closer than usual.
It is one of the media locations that the 45th offers us. And yes, it is one of the closer ones that we are offered, and tends to be closer than what folks who work on the 45th can go to for, shall we say, quote, public viewing, not public per se, but for 45th Space Wing cardholder viewing. So this is a very special view that we get to share with you. Absolutely.
Wonderful. I really think this was a visual, very striking launch, and I
Remember what I
really,
said
really...
about that filtered light? Max was cheering on those clouds, filtering the light exactly as such. So that
This
was
is the
Max's
first time
storybook ending.
This is the first time an NSF photographer has cheered for clouds.
Yeah, exactly. And on that note, I unfortunately cannot drive with noise canceling headphones on. So I just want to thank everyone for joining those of us in the field, and enjoy the rest of our stream today, guys.
Absolutely. Thanks for being on, Julia. And that, of course, has been Julia Bergeron with us today from the field. Thank you so much, Julia. And good drive.
That was so fun.
Thank you so much.
And we also had in the field, I'm not sure, I think we're not ready yet for the outro. So I will hold here. I'm holding until we are ready. But yeah, Falcon 9 is in coasting, and we'll hopefully deploy these satellites and make ESA very happy that they have 2 more satellites in orbit. What's next for Falcon 9, Trevor? What's the next few days bringing us for Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy? And I say heavy there, right?
Yeah, so this week is actually kind of quiet for SpaceX because after this launch, Slick 40 is going to begin pad conversions for Dragon, since it's, of course, supporting Crew 9 in a week, which will be the first crewed launch from Slick 40. But thankfully, Slick 4 East does have another launch tomorrow. Tomorrow at, let's see, 7:30 local time. There's Starlink Group 9-17 out of Vandenberg. Then, of course, the next launch isn't until next Wednesday, Crew 9, and then they'll probably have some more Vandenberg launches filled in sometime in there between Starlink. I know there's a OneWeb launch upcoming. And then from 39, the next big mission is going to be Falcon Heavy. which is launching on Thursday, October 10th at 12:31 just afternoon local time. So there's some exciting missions coming up. And then also there's like a CRS mission in mid-October, another interplanetary mission launching on Falcon 9 and beginning of October. So lots of exciting stuff.
Yep, we have a few very exciting weeks for Falcon 9 ahead of us. I really want to give a shout out to Hera. Like, Hera is low-key won a very interesting mission with Hera will investigate. If you remember DART, right? Hera will investigate the DART impactor and like the study the results of that. So it's kind of like the DART 2.0 kind of thing, where it will make sure that actually DART worked. So kind of interesting mission. And I think a really, really interesting one that we'll see launching on October 7th. So absolutely. And with that, I want to start to watch some replays here with the Falcon 9 here rising out of the forest in Florida. It goes by. Bye-bye, Falcon. And another bit of a wider angle here, I think, from the press side. See Falcon 9 just appearing there, middle of the jungle. Oh!
I love that shot next to the PPF.
Yep. Here it comes. Wonderful. Wonderful. I love that. Yeah, that PPF next to it makes it perfect. It's honestly just making, like, rounding up this perfect shot here. And with that, I want to start thanking Trevor here for being on with me for the last 80 minutes. Thank you so much, Trevor. That was really fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of cool stuff on there. Super awesome to see the envelope pushed with that landing. And of course, European Union is probably pretty happy that they have a few more GPS equivalents on their way to orbit.
Absolutely. We love our Galileo. And I also want to thank our field team, which was 3 people today, with Julia, with Max, and with Dee, who have been all in the field today, providing amazing views. And we also had off-base Wade, Dr. WD40, also providing some additional views. So we technically had 4 people in the field here with us today. That's crazy. Absolutely stunning. So thanks for that. And then, of course, behind the scenes, we had Carson today operating today's launch and keeping up with me going from A to B and having to present accordingly. So thanks for trying to keep up with me, Carson. I know sometimes I jump quite a lot in my train of thought. And I've been Adrian Bile. I was your host for today's mission, which was absolutely enjoyable. Thanks so much for that, chat. And with that, I want to give you some more replays, some more slow-mo shots, and we will see you all next time. Thanks for watching.
And here we go.
We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be normal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roger, planet.
Water towers fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Flight count speed off. Say again, SPD off. Off. It's orange!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage. Put that in the big bag, Eagle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You dead? Sure. We don't need any more of these.